So the first big observation that I'll say about developer content, and this might be obvious, but I think it's really important to note, and it's important to note the caveats as to why they are and what works for them. So all the big companies in the space of developer marketing, especially if they have a product-led or bottoms-up strategy, are doing some level of content marketing. And most of the big ones are doing a lot of content marketing of some form or another. Now, content marketing in developer circles doesn't necessarily look like content marketing in a traditional B2B circle or a B2C context, because developer marketing is often very technical and gets kind of edges right up against the documentation world. So what we see a lot from big companies is there's content being produced by their developer relations teams, there's content produced by their marketing teams, there's content produced by external and community members, and they're kind of blending all this content together and figuring out a good mix for them. Now, the big difference between a lot of the bigger companies that I've got listed here and the smaller ones that come to us, they're just getting started with content. These bigger ones have a really great sense of what the return on the investment for their content is. So in other words, if I went to one of these larger companies and I asked, how many page views does a typical blog post bring in that you publish onto your engineering blog? And how much of those page views worth from a monetary standpoint, they could probably tell me this many signups happen, which leads to this many conversions, which leads to this much lifetime value of a customer. And I know that sounds simple in a way because you're just talking about connecting 4 or 5 steps together. But in reality, a lot of companies aren't doing this. And it's one of the big reasons that bigger companies can invest many thousands of dollars into a single piece of content, and a lot of smaller startups struggle to even justify spending $1,000 or $2,000 on a single piece of content. And so one big difference and one thing to think about is how you actually measure your ROI. And again, we'll go over this throughout this talk. I've also noticed that some of our smaller clients, even companies in the seed stage, have figured this out. And these two observations made me realize there is a way to find a good ROI for your content at any stage company, but you have to be intentional. You have to really work at it. We've seen some small clients that are creating really great long-term SEO value, generating hundreds of thousands of page views within a year or two of working with us or working with other content providers to really ramp up the number of customers they have, at least the awareness they have in the space. We've seen companies that we work with creating really short-term but highly effective and high ROI pieces of content around sales collateral that helps the sales team close deals. And so there are ways to do this. And that's what we'll focus on is, okay, if you're not the biggest player in your market, what do you do to make an impact in content? How can you get a positive ROI from content?